Hey guys, Nintendrew here. It's that time again for some strange and obscure facts about one of my all-time favorite consoles, the Nintendo 64. So without further ado, let's get right to it. Alright, first up on our list, Nintendo's early online presence. The Nintendo 64 has a history deeply intertwined with the early days of the internet. In fact, the founders of Netscape, Jim Clark and Mark Andreessen, recognized the system's potential and offered their services to create an online gaming network for the console. They presented a detailed 20-page design document to Nintendo, outlining their vision for online gaming on the Nintendo 64. However, despite their efforts, a deal could not be reached, leading them to pursue other ventures. This eventually resulted in the launch of Netscape Navigator, the world's first widely adopted internet browser, which revolutionized the way people accessed and experienced the internet. While Netscape's collaboration with Nintendo ultimately didn't pan out, the N64 still managed to make significant strides in online connectivity. One notable example is Morita Shogi 64, a game that featured a built-in dial-up modem. This innovative feature allowed players in Japan to connect and compete against opponents from far distances, marking the first time such online interactions were possible on a Nintendo system. Morita Shogi 64 demonstrated the console's potential for online gaming and foreshadowed the future of interconnected gaming experiences. Next up, Nintendo 64 games were very pricey. While modern gamers might complain about the high prices of new Switch titles, which can retail for upwards of $70, the cost of N64 games at launch was even more exorbitant. In the 90s, most N64 titles were released with a price tag of around $75, and some highly anticipated releases even reached $80. Considering inflation, these prices would be equivalent to approximately $150 today. This means it's arguably easier and more affordable to start collecting N64 games now than it was during the console's initial launch period. The high cost of the system's games at the time reflects the console's popularity and the perceived value of its library. Moving right along, your N64 can play Game Boy games. If you're as big of a Nintendo 64 fan as I am, there's no doubt you're probably aware of the ability to play Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow versions through the Pokemon Stadium game with the N64 Transfer Pack. However, the console's compatibility with Game Boy games extends beyond this popular franchise. The Wide Boy 64, a hilariously named peripheral device only available to developers in the press, enabled the N64 to play the entire Game Boy library on the big screen, much like the Super Game Boy before it. This device allowed journalists and publishers to capture high-quality screenshots for strategy guides and promotional materials, albeit at a very steep price tag of $1,400. While acquiring a Wide Boy 64 today may be even more challenging and expensive, there are alternative methods to experience Game Boy games on the N64. If you have a flash cartridge such as the EverDrive, you can check out James Lambert's GB64 project, which enables the creation of .N64 ROM files for Game Boy or Game Boy Color game backups. This opens up the possibility of playing a wide range of Game Boy titles on the platform, offering a nostalgic gaming experience for enthusiasts. Next up, Nintendo's hotel rental service. During the dawn of the 3D gaming era, Nintendo collaborated with LodgeNet to launch a hotel rental service for N64 games. This service allowed hotel guests to rent the latest releases and enjoy them from the comfort of their room. For approximately $7 an hour, gamers could access a selection of popular N64 titles and immerse themselves in the world of 3D gaming. LodgeNet offered a convenient and accessible way for travelers to experience the N64's cutting-edge games without the need to purchase a console or individual titles. The service extended beyond the N64 and even included models for the Super Nintendo and GameCube as well. And while the controllers provided by LodgeNet may be obsolete today, they serve as a fascinating relic of gaming history, reminding us of the innovative ways in which Nintendo sought to expand the reach of its experiences. If you'd like to learn more about LodgeNet, I've got a dedicated video detailing the service's functionality on the channel, which I will link in the description. And finally, our last fact for today, the real reason the N64 controller has 3 handles. The Nintendo 64 controller is notorious for its unconventional design, featuring 3 handles that set it apart from other controllers of its time. There's no shortage of jokes about this layout being cumbersome, given that there's no real way to hold the controller while accessing all the buttons. But at the time, this distinctive configuration was revolutionary. The reason for this design was primarily due to the N64 being the first console to introduce the analog thumbstick as a primary mode of input. However, Nintendo anticipated that developers might be slow to adopt this new control scheme, so they designed the controller with versatility in mind. The 3 handles allowed players to hold the controller in 3 different ways depending on the games they were playing. The 2D mode provides a traditional grip for games that don't utilize the analog stick. The 3D mode offers a comfortable way to control games that heavily rely on analog input, such as Super Mario 64. And the FPS mode was designed for first-person shooter games, allowing for precise character movement while aiming with the thumbstick. Although most games in the console's library chose to adopt the 3D mode, the N64 controller's innovative design showcases Nintendo's forward-thinking approach and was overwhelmingly praised at the time for its versatility. Alright guys, that's going to do it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this look at 5 more weird Nintendo 64 facts. As always, if you did like the video, please do consider subscribing to Nintendrew for all sorts of cool gaming content, and make sure to share it with any friends who might find it interesting. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye!